everyone, and welcome to the Podcast by ARMY podcast, where we talk about BTS, ARMY, fandom, and research. We're your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Ringland and
Jhertau Her, university researcher.
And today we're talking about capitalism.
And consumerism. And how it's all interconnected.
We have talked about this a lot, actually, but I think this might be the first time we're actually dedicating a whole episode to it.
Yeah. It's been in the plans for a while, but here we are now. And let's talk about it, right? Because Kate and I used to be, before the boycott, really big consumers of BTS merchandise. I bought every new release. I bought digitals. I bought merchandise. Both of our bookshelves behind us look wild.
Yeah, they're full of things.
Too many things.
Not books.
Not books. I see the indigo vase.
Yes. It's actually one of my most prized possessions.
Actually, it's beautiful.
It's so pretty. I have for the folks at home who can't see this, I have the Lego flowers in the vase. So
that's pretty cute.
My kids put them together for me for Mother's Day. Then I put them
pretty iconic. I got a D-Day ticket, and I have Chinese Danmei merch as well.
Nice.
Got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So if anyone can talk about this stuff, it's us.
Yeah.
We are consumers number one. We are the main market that Hybe is trying to sell to.
Yes.
Middle-aged women.
Did you just call yourself middle-aged? Because I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
Kate's the middle-aged woman.
I am the demographic. I make enough money that I
can spend on all that stuff.
Have it. Yes.
Yeah. I am just irresponsible.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But now we're boycotting, so no, we're not irresponsible anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, but we used to be really avid consumers of BTS merchandise. I was literally online friends. It's called a superstar, I think, which is basically a membership rank where if you spend over $1,000 online friends and you buy that merchandise, you get like benefits like free shipping and like that too. So that's how they keep making you consume.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you, the free shipping.
The absolutely adorable merch, but
it is really cute. It's cute. Some merch is going downhill in my opinion though. For BT21.
I have thoughts. Yeah.
Oh, we can talk.
Oh yeah.
The merchandise is not good anymore.
It is. Oh, it is so bad. It's so bad.
The merchandise they released for Friends, really bad.
I don't even remember it. That's how, for me, what's the last time there was good merchandise?
Probably the By Artist merchandise.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I still wear my By Artist merchandise.
Because that was because it's from BTS themselves.
Yeah, that was literally from BTS. I liked my Indigo merch.
I think all the vinyls have been really high quality.
The vinyls have been nice, and I wait patiently so that one day I can buy the D-Day vinyl because that one looks really cool. But that's it. I'm trying to think. In years past, there's been some really nice stuff because even oh my gosh, what's the merch they put out for the holiday season?
Oh, for the BT21?
No, the pretty stuff with flowers on it. Oh my god, my brain. Anyway, there was one year where they had teacups.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
That stuff was always really nice, although the last time it wasn't as nice. But anyways, there's teacups. Anyways, so there's been some really high quality, really nice merch in the past.
Yeah.
Cannot speak for now, though.
The merchandise now, very minimalist, and there's a way to do minimalism well, but the ones that they're releasing are really ugly. We can talk about the monochrome merch that was released.
Can I talk about the monochrome?
Ooh, go ahead, all you.
I have so many feelings. People who follow me on Twitter know my feelings on this, but okay. So when merch is tied to something meaningful and specific, so say an album, it automatically inherits some meaning, right? So even if, say, the Friends merch was kind of meh, I am sure somebody could find some meaning in some of it because it's tied to the Friends album. But the monochrome stuff was just, that was the moment where I felt like this is the company exposing themselves, like outing themselves as just being here to capitalize on us, being here to leverage us as consumers to make money off of us, because they put in some effort to create that game. See, this is the thing. I feel like I got had because they put all that effort into that game. It was super fun. There was some playful elements. We were all like,
You're talking about in the Psalm, right?
no, they made a whole, okay, were you not online for this? They made a whole website. They made a whole website for monochrome. They made a whole website with clues. It was a whole playful experience where everybody was like, I didn't even interact with it that much. I think I was traveling.
I was
at the
probably
time.
doing exams during that time.
Yeah, it was during it. I think we might have been traveling. It might have been during us traveling, actually. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
it was in there somewhere. But anyways, so there was this whole elaborate website, and there was all these clues about, and there was special dates and stuff. A lot of it like referred back to HYYH, and it was this whole elaborate thing, right? And so people were getting hyped up when it first got teased on the timeline, because we were thinking, oh, maybe this is some kind of tie-in to the HYYH anniversary stuff, and maybe it was like there was this whole thing because we thought this was going to tie into music or the albums or something. And then after it teased over several days, I believe there was like, and people were like sharing, it was the whole fun, playful experience that we've had in Days of Army Past, where people were swapping like, oh, I found this clue, and here's a date, and here's a location, and people were trying to figure out what all this was for. And then it very quickly became apparent that it was literally just for a pop-up store. And it was a pop-up store, and then people were like trying to hold on hope to that, being like, oh, maybe in the pop-up store there's going to be some meaningful anniversary music, new music, something, right? And then it turns out, no, it's for this thing called monochrome, and it was all new merch that had no relation to anything. And even the merch itself, it was, so for those who were unaware, it was super, super minimalistic. It was just like black and white. So it was like monochrome in the sense that it was literally just black and white. And there was like a white water bottle, and then it just had some sort of abbreviation of monochrome on it. So it was like MC, basically just monochrome written on things, which means nothing to me. What does that have to do with anything? And then that was the whole store. It was literally like white water bottles, black crates. The whole thing was just like, it was really bad. If it had been tied to something more meaningful, maybe it would have been more interesting. Or if it had been less ugly, maybe that would have been more interesting. There, like a lot of the diehard kind of anti-boycotters at that point were like trying to imbue it with meaning of, oh, this is for the adults in the room. I'm like, I'm sorry, the indigo merch was for the adults in the room. This is garbage. And so we had this whole fun, playful experience that was then like, oh, just kidding, this is all for capitalism and to take your money. And then we had people actually doing that, actually spending money, going to these pop-ups and talking about all the money they spent on this ugly merch. And for me, as somebody who has been here and studying both high, big hit, BTS, and ARMY, like all the pillars here, studying how the community space is imbued with play and how BTS has leveraged these playful experiences to make these kind of meaningful community events, and often tied with music, and imbuing that play with meaning because of the lyrics and so on and so forth, and the artistry. To have that basically then leveraged for a purely capitalist experience that has absolutely, at the end of the day, literally nothing to do with BTS. There's no BTS to be in any of this. And except for they've slapped BTS on the label, right? They've literally just said, look, this is a BTS thing. And I'm like, where's the BTS thing? The only thing here that feels remotely related to BTS and ARMY is this playful experience, which is then made hollow and just horrifying by subverting it to make it for purely to show that it's just for capitalism. And so then if you take a step back from that, one then starts to question the whole model of everything we've been doing. Have they just been capitalisming us this whole time? For me, it was that moment of, are they just now showing themselves? Or is this because BTS is absent, they feel like they can do this to us? Or what is it? And the fact then that tons of ARMY apparently were fine with this, and in fact started defending this. Like when I was speaking out against it, there was lots of people in my comments being angry at me that I was speaking out against this, like defending this kind of behavior. It's okay that you have chosen to become a mindless consumer at this point. And so here we are in this episode. I'm so disappointed because it's just like, it's taking everything, like I actually feel really strongly about this. It's taking everything that BTS and ARMY have built together and just turning it into mindless money grabbing. And that, it makes me sick.
Yeah, and you can say it too, because all of that merchandise, it's all just factory blanks that they put text on.
I could have gone into one of those, the websites where you can upload
Custom ink or something.
Yeah, I could gone to custom ink and made something better.
Which is inherently the problem. Yeah. I was really upset. I don't know what happened during that time. I had exams during that time.
Yeah, there was a lot of other stuff going on. And I had this moment of hope when the playful stuff came out. People, like I had people in our group chats were talking about it. I was like, there was a whole like couple of hours there where I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then people start going, this is just for a pop-up store. And I was heartbroken because it was literally taking something that we all cherish and something that I inherently find extremely valuable about our community and just saying, tee-hee, this is just to get money from you.
Yeah, it's not even, it makes me really sad because Hybe is capable of releasing good merchandise.
Yeah.
We keep joking on the timeline, oh, they fired all the graphic designers, but it feels that way.
It does feel that way.
With the way that even online graphics that they release now are so plain. Like the Festa merchandise and the Festa graphics, they were really simple. When we have seen in the past, when Festa merchandise and Festa graphics come out, they're complex, they're thoughtful, they're artful. But now it's, okay, what happened? Hybe as a company, really much, we talked about this in our previous episode, they're trying to be a technology company. They're no longer for music, they're no longer for art.
And I'll say that this is not just a Hybe problem. This is like speaking broadly, this seems to be a trend across the tech industry of in the past couple of years, especially with this kind of bubble of AI, which is like disastrous because the AI bubble is bursting now, and all these companies that have spent the last couple of years firing and laying off all their artists and all their like people who create things, which is, I'm assuming, also what has happened to Hybe is they've bought into this, oh, we can save money by using AI and having less artists on our teams. And so what we're seeing is like a lower quality creative output across the board, across different tech companies. And that bubble is bursting, and they're quickly going to find out that people don't actually want to spend their money on garbage. And all those people they fired are not there now to do the quality work that they were doing before.
It makes me really sad, honestly, because I feel like this is not just a trend happening with Hybe, but this is a trend worldwide right now when it comes to art and animation, especially with what we're seeing with AI generation.
Seeing it across the board with all the people who do user experience work, all the students that I train to go out and work in the tech industry, they're all struggling to find jobs right now because the tech industry thinks that it can do without. And I think we're going to see very quickly here in the next year that is not going to work out for them. We're going to see a lot of shifting and changing in tech companies because a lot of them are going to lose money in very dramatic ways.
Yes. I can talk about this not from a tech perspective, but from a marketing perspective. A lot of marketing companies, they say no to AI. and no to AI generation, because marketers know that type of content cheapens your advertising and cheapens your product. But tech companies, they think of too much of the innovation of it or the idea of what it can do instead of the real, this is what it's doing, this is what it's outputting, and it's not up to market standard. And they're trying to make people accept this kind of below market standard of work when we don't want it at all. Maybe I should have been a marketer instead of a tech person. Can I switch careers? Still early enough for me, right? I can change my major, go into business administration.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Ew. Ew. Anyway. But yeah, HCI research, just like tech research, everything that's happening right now, it's wild. I know before we talked about this, you wanted to talk about specifically one part of HCI research. We gotta dissect that. We gotta dissect that.
Oh yeah. We started this conversation when we were talking about what we were going to do with this episode. We were talking about how capitalism is a product of white supremacy. That's where this conversation started. And we were talking about within capitalism, having the model of some countries being less than others. And of course, that's all deeply rooted in colonialism and the quote unquote developed countries having basically extracted all the resources and left behind devastation of the developing countries. And so I was talking about how within human computer interaction research, we have essentially a whole subfield, which I'm not sure where it stands right now, because things have been moving and shifting as it has been everywhere, where a lot of folks have started to realize that colonialism is very much tied into all of this. And that so a lot of people have shifted away from this language, but we still have this kind of field of, it's called ICT4D, and it's essentially basically creating and developing and researching technology for developing countries. And thinking about how we have this mentality, and we see this a lot actually in Army Twitter too, of this mentality of countries that are lesser than, and that kind of Western perspective of being able to come in and rescue people. Or there's an example, an HCI example, where this team that I think it came out of, I think mostly MIT. I think other researchers were involved. There's some California university researchers in there too, but there was the called One Laptop Per Child, where they basically sent laptops, these little rugged laptops, down to a country in South America. And the whole idea was they were going to blow these children's education up with these laptops that were going to give them access to all this education materials and this interactivity that they had never had before, because they're like in some poor rural community, and here they have these laptops that are just going to save them or whatever, right? And then of course it was a complete failure. So the entire project was just a total fail, because the internet connectivity, of course, was limited and sketch. So the laptops actually being able to connect to the internet was hit or miss. The laptops themselves did not do well in the environment, because the environment, like these were kids living out in a rural village. The laptops were just not rugged enough. Taking the laptops back and forth from school to home was a whole thing. Throwing technology at something was just not useful at the end of the day, and not what was needed in these communities. And I feel like technology in general is often seen as this band-aid or this intervention that will save people. And so I think it's interesting seeing this in relationship to how Hive's been moving with their kind of, we are going to be a tech company, we're going to do all these things. And we talked about this in the previous episode about how they want to do this, but they're not doing it well. And I think that part of the conversation here is about how white supremacy, capitalism, and tech are all intertwined, and we can't separate all these things, and we get stuck with kind of this mindset.
it feels very transactional. Again,
Mhm.
a lot of times white saviorism is inherently transactional. That's why I really don't like those global volunteer opportunities. Because
Right.
after I graduate, I'll probably take a gap year, go travel, go do something with my time. But everyone keeps suggesting to me, oh, go do those global volunteer programs where you go to an underdeveloped country and you go support and volunteer there. And I'm just thinking, like, why do I have to take a plane ride that's putting emissions into the air in order to help a different country when you can support the people who are already there?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
And there's also this kind of interesting, there's a piece of that has always bothered me about some of those kinds of programs of like the one laptop per child thing, right? So these were big private universities that US government funds and other things. I don't actually remember how it was funded, but I'm assuming the NSF was involved or whatever. Using all these things to send laptops to another community where they didn't have people on the ground. They didn't know what these kids actually needed. They just thought, oh, this is a great idea. We're going to save their education through laptops. When we have children in our own country, in the United States, where these universities are located, that don't have access to laptops or internet connectivity or safe education. And so I've always been baffled by this. Let's ship our white people out to these other countries to save these communities when we can't even get it together in our own backyards. There's really so many complex systems of oppression at work here that just, I don't know, I get baffled by these. Like, why are you working so hard? Nobody asked you for this. Nobody asked you for this. And this is how you're spending money and time and resources when you could literally walk down the street and be working with a local school or work with an activist group that's already on the ground in these places and give them the resources so they can actually use them in a way that makes sense and is a good use of resources and will actually help with the uplifting and liberation of that community. I just clearly I have feelings about that.
Yeah, I have strong feelings about that too, because very much I feel like my own history and just who I am as a person is imbued in white saviorism as well. Because Hmong people during the Vietnam War, they were used during the war through things like the Ho Chi Minh Trail and such. And they were used by both sides, let's be real here, with weapons transport and everything. And the only reason I'm here in America is because of white saviors. A lot of people, white people from the church, took in a lot of Hmong families and sponsored them coming to America. And there's complex conversations to have there. Like, I'm not like someone who's totally anti-religion or anything. I think religion brings people together. It's a community-based thing. But it's wild to think about how it's like all these systems of white supremacy that allowed me to exist as a person. And today, those white supremacist systems still endure. It's like what's happening with Palestine now, too.
Yeah, I was going to say just Google Palestinian child adoption. And there's just so many white people that are just ready to pluck a child out of Palestine and raise them in their white homes. And I speechless actually, but it's the same systems, same systems.
It is the same systems. It's like how during the Korean War, there were thousands of Korean children who were shipped to America to be adopted. And then even after the Korean War, that happened too. And now South Korea is trying to get those people to come back to Korea because they have population problems. And it's just a cycle. I forgot. There was like a Korean activist I had read like a tweet from, and they were talking about how the Korean body is used by colonialism and white supremacy, and how the Korean body is used in like how there's Korean children who are adopted by white families, and then how Korean people on the ground in South Korea are used with things like mandatory military enlistment, and how the Korean body is used for colonialism, for white supremacy. And it's grotesque.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, there's a whole field of thought around and it's interesting, especially given the Korean context here, but like the whole politicization of bodies in general, because there's a whole lens of looking at America, for example, and looking at the American political system through the lens of biopolitics around the disabled body, and especially as it's tied to eugenics, which is then tied to the blackness of a body, which is then tied to all these other things. It's all connected. But I think it's interesting bringing up the Korean body in particular, because that is a point we have been trying to make ad nauseum at this point around BTS being political inherently because they inhabit Korean bodies. And I think that you can't escape that. You can't escape your identity, right? That is how you are perceived by the world. And that is going to be inherently politicized regardless of what you yourself are doing. And I think that there is an interesting kind of connection there between understanding like how we have been regarding the Korean bodies in this sense and how we've been moving as community, and the call by parts of the community to depoliticize it's so dangerous, because it's essentially normalizing and solidifying white supremacy within our community. And anyway, that was a tangent from me. You're welcome.
No, but it's a good tangent to have, because I'm still learning a lot, right? As a student, as someone who's, if you're a researcher, you're forever learning.
Literally, I'm still learning. It's why I love my job, is because the one thing I get to do every day is learn new things. But anyway, go on.
The idea of a political body, the only people who are privileged to having non-political bodies are white people.
And even then, if you're heteronormative, able-bodied white man, they are what's considered politically neutral. So they are essentially still politicized in the sense, but they are essentially allowed to live a privileged neutral existence that all the rest of society then has to exist around and in comparison to. And the further away you get from that normativity, obviously, the more dramatically politicized you become, right? White women, for example, so inherently have some politics, and in fact, they leverage that to an extreme, oftentimes being like, I'm a woman, so therefore, but they are still white, especially if they're able-bodied, et cetera, then there's a lot of privilege in that, but it gets dismissed, the privilege gets dismissed because they're allowed to say, but I am not a dude. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things that a lot of people just want to ignore. It's convenient to ignore, or it's easier to live comfortably if we don't think about these things. And the closer you get to that privileged position, the more comfortable you probably are, or the more you're leveraging those privileged positions. So say you aren't necessarily of the privileged community group, but you have positioned yourself in a way that you have some sanctity or coverage or support of the privileged, you're not going to want to rock the boat, right? You're not going to want to do things that dislodge you from that comfortable space.
Yeah, because privilege is about comfort inherently. It's about creating spaces of comfort because they can afford to. It's like how gentrification, right? Mm-hmm. How gentrification, a lot of times when white and privileged individuals move into historically people of color neighborhoods or historically poor neighborhoods, what they do is they do noise complaints.
Yep.
And noise complaints are, a lot of people have differing opinions on this, but noise complaints are a tool of white supremacy because that introduces the police
Yeah.
into those neighborhoods. And a lot of times, like nowadays, things like block parties don't exist in a lot of cities anymore because all the communities and the people who would have thrown those block parties have been displaced or have left completely.
Yeah.
And that's because of gentrification and how noise complaints work. Where, okay, a lot of people won't like a party at 11 p.m. at night. But if you don't like a party at 11 p.m. at night, move. Because you have the privilege to move and leave.
Yeah.
The people
Well,
who live there don't.
yeah, and you even see it with all the Karens in the parks where they're like, oh, look, there's a group of people of color trying to enjoy a barbecue. I'm going to call the cops on them. That is also a result of that kind of gentrification and kind of the consistent calling in and policing of bodies and spaces. That's what's going on there.
Yeah, and a lot of times people don't recognize that as tools of white supremacy because I'm going to be honest, I don't like parties late at night. Okay? I'm sorry. I come from an ethnic household, and these people could party till 3 a.m. Not gonna lie, okay? But I have never been that type of person, which is probably why people think I'm whitewashed. Also, I'm exploring my own neurodivergence. And after 2 hours of constant sound, I'm done. I'm out. Goodbye. With all of that in mind, I think people should be able to live in neighborhoods and communities they want to live in, but forcing a community to change for you, especially if you are just a visitor to that community, you are not part of that actual community. What the heck's wrong with you, my guy?
It's interesting because when you say it like that, it makes sense, but that is not the actual mindset of the people who have purchased property there and are now living.
Yeah.
That it's like colonialism on the micro scale, right? Because it's they purchased a home and it is their home now and they live there. So it is their community according to their deed. And so using their privilege, they're able to come in and leverage the resources available to them, which in this case means the cops and whatever other things, bringing in money and bulldozing things. Like I was just having a conversation with someone who was like, oh yeah, I visited Seattle a couple years ago and it was so great. And the people there were telling me that if I had been here just a few years earlier, I wouldn't have been able to walk around this neighborhood because so many homeless people live there, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's because they've bulldozed and taken down the entire infrastructure of where the homeless used to live on the waterfront in Seattle. I don't know where they've gone. That displaced so many people and an entire community of people. And they literally did that through construction. They bulldozed things and they bulldozed all those communities to pave the way for essentially gentrification. And we see that again echoed on all these different scales. So we see that in what's going on in Palestine, and we see that what's going on in the encampments, literally bulldozing these different levels of bulldozing these communities in order to make it prettier or to essentially displace the people that they don't want there in order to make space for the people they do want there. And I don't know, I think that there's something very illustrative in that. There's some kind of connection going on there. But yeah, anyway, I just think that's interesting because I also feel like you can see echoes of that in like our online spaces with the way people move and clear space by reporting and trying to remove physically people from Twitter, for example, getting their accounts suspended and um, kind of the mass reporting that happens. We see this on Weverse with the mass reporting and the censoring. It's the same bulldozing effect, but virtually.
The gentrification of ARMY Twitter.
Oh God.
But also, when hasn't Army Twitter been gentrified?
No, that's the thing, is I think that there was a veneer before, and it was easier to exist as a radical in the space, in the sense that as long as you didn't get caught, but you could exist somewhat as a radical in the space. And I think that like the veneer has been removed and now all the underbelly is exposed and we are seeing things for how they've always been. And in seeing that, we're like, oh, this has always been bad, and that wasn't as obvious, and now it's quite obvious.
Yeah, just the curtain has been pulled.
Yeah.
Everything that is
Yeah.
bad, we now see very clearly.
Yeah.
And this has been years coming. I remember in 2020, people were having this conversation too of, okay, we're going to experience an influx of fans. How do we teach them about this space and actually have them engage in the space meaningfully? That didn't happen. The transitional period for Army Twitter did not happen. It was too overwhelming. And all the people who could have been a part of that change, they left because it was too overwhelming. It was too much. Even having things like trucks existing in front of K-pop companies, a lot of that was due to only a handful of people in Army Twitter. And Army wasn't even able to combat that.
Right.
So all that type of stuff, this has been a long time coming. It's not out of the blue, Army's so bad now, so terrible. Army has always been like this.
Yeah.
And it's only now that we are truly exposing it and seeing it for the way that it is. And it's okay, though. We'll get better. We'll get there eventually. Maybe not hype, though. We gotta talk about those quality control things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We wanted to touch on that. Oh my god. We gotta talk about shipping prices real quick. Kate and I, we don't purchase merchandise anymore. I don't. But what I see of anti-boycotters and the merchandise they buy, and what I see of people from other platforms talking about it, merchandise shipping prices are ridiculous. Like $200 for something that logistically should have been solved years ago. And it really feels like this type of thing is truly an example of Hybe no longer prioritizing music and the fans and prioritizing becoming a technology company instead. Because what are we doing?
What are we doing?
We got a boycott. There's someone on Twitter who made like an extensive list of reasons to boycott, and they were like, just choose one.
Yeah.
At this point, choose one. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Get yourself together. Because this kind of feels like the same when we're talking about just like all the problems of the world. If you don't move at all, if you don't do anything, you can't change anything. Kate and I were talking about white supremacy. How do you combat white supremacy? A lot of different ways. Number one, you can do little micro actions. You can do, if a white person speaks over a person of color, you'd be like, hey, you interrupted that person. I would like to hear what that person was saying. And that's a way you can reach out and do stuff. There's little acts you can do. And those little acts collectively change society.
Yeah.
Or do big acts. Go to a protest. Go lobby for something. Go email and talk to your representatives. Go to a city council meeting.
Or stop buying things.
Yes.
You don't need.
That's the easiest. It truly is the easiest thing to just stop buying things. I'm not gonna lie. And it saves you a lot of money. And you can put that money into different things. Like recently, I've been thinking a lot about ethical consumerism. Like I'm buying stuff for when I go to South Korea to study abroad. What do I really need when I go? Okay, number one, maybe like an adapter for my electronics. Maybe like a good quality backpack, some compression socks, some like little things, right? And I whittled that list of things I needed down to 7 things. And I only bought those 7 things, which is so fun. It's 7. It's 7 again. But and I thought really hard about like where I would source buying those things too. And right now, also for the next year, I've told myself this, I'm on a no buy for clothes year. I don't want to buy more clothes. All clothes I want, I'm happy with. I do not want any more. So I'm not buying any more clothes. When I go to Korea, the goal is to not buy any clothes. But yeah, it's like easy to do a lot of these things. And I really encourage you guys to do it. But yeah, any final thoughts, Kate? For the people?
Final thoughts. I feel like it's important to recognize your own inherent power in these systems, whether you feel like you have it or not. And because we live in a capitalist society, part of our power is deciding where we put our money. And that might be the most powerful thing we have at the moment. And that and educating other people about how they should be considering how they spend their money. And I think that a lot of this is wrapped up in feelings of, we talked about feelings of comfort. And I think that comfort and complicity are often, they come together as a package deal. So the reason you're encouraged to protect your comfort is because as you do that, you become complicit in these systems. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to value your comfort so much that you will ignore atrocities being committed to other people. And you will ignore the world burning down around you because you at least have your comfort. And a lot of that is built into how our capitalist systems work. And so you have the choice today to decide which systems you're going to continue to be complicit in and which systems you're going to try to subvert or dismantle. And it is as simple as choosing which brands to purchase, choosing where things are sourced, if it's ethical or not, and choosing what platforms and what tools you use and what technology you're spending your time with, because all of that impacts things like how the environment is impacted, and it impacts things like who is on the other end of that technology you're buying, who is being hurt and harmed and killed in the process of getting that technology to you, and what futures are you dismantling by continuing to buy technologies and other, products. And so it's not just about a high boycott. A high boycott is great. It's good. We should keep doing that. But also, this is about the larger systems that we are living within and how we can keep ethically thinking about how do we keep going towards a better future, which includes dismantling a lot of these really big systems.
Yeah, I totally agree. And something really important is that a lot of times there's a lot of big issues in the world, right? For example, climate change. Huge issue. A lot of climate change is to blame from the top 1% and the companies contributing to it. Yet, that doesn't take away your power as the individual either. Because something that is the most powerful that we have, everyone has, is our dollar. Where are we going to put our money, especially as Americans? Especially because the dollar has a higher conversion rate than a lot of other currencies. Where can we put our money in order to speak through it? And that's something you got to think about. I support local businesses a lot. A lot of times when I want to eat out, I'm like, I don't really want to go to a chain. Let's go somewhere local. Like when I go out to pop events or markets, if I see a local bakery selling stuff there, I'll buy some stuff. Even if I'm not going to eat it all right then. Because it's important to support those structures. It's important to support people who are doing things outside of the hyper capitalist, hyper corporate world. And you will always have power with your dollar. So speak through your dollar. Because that's one of the last things that people truly have control over. Right now, there's things like the right to assemble, the right to protest that are being threatened. And with those things being threatened, if we can't gather as people, if we're going to be consumers, we might as well be consuming in a better way. Or not consuming at all. Save that money. But yeah, that's us. That's this episode. Everyone take care of yourselves. keep fighting for the liberation of all the different places in the world. We do love all the people, and we do support all the people. But yeah, go out, go do things, go read, go educate, and that's it. Bye.
Bye.